Madam Secretary, I want to talk to you about the transitional reinsurance program and some current concerns that I and others have about the legality of the way these funds have been used. We're going to put up on the screen the actual text of the law that you see there now. And I also have here the same legal memorandum that my colleague, Chairman Pitt, showed you 2 weeks ago when you testified before the Energy and Commerce Committee. The nonpartisan Congressional Research Service, which put out this memo, analyzed this issue and stated, and I'm going to quote them, "Insofar as CMS interpretation allows the entire contribution of an issuer in any given year to be used only for reinsurance payments, such that no part of it is allocated for the U.S. Treasury contribution, then that would appear to be in conflict with a plain reading of Section 1341b4, that's the language up there, because the statute unambiguously states that each issuer's contribution contain an amount that reflects, quote, its proportionate share, close quote, of the U.S. Treasury contribution, and that these amounts should be deposited in the general fund of the U.S. Treasury. A contrary agency interpretation would not be entitled to deference under the Chevron decision." We have that second piece of language up there now. So you've had 2 weeks since Chairman Pitts brought this to your attention. You have the legal memorandum. I assume you've had a chance to go over this with your staff and with your counsel. You would agree that you didn't put $5 billion in the Treasury as you were required to. My question now is, do you now not agree that you violated the law in not putting the $5 billion with the Treasury?
We believe that our reading of the law is accurate and correct. And as we put out—
Could you give me, some authorization for that?
Yes. What we did was we actually put out our reading of the law in a notice of proposed rulemaking for public comment. We put out our logic, we put out our reasoning to the public to review our proposal, not in an interim final rule, but in a notice of proposed rulemaking, so that we could have comments. A wide range of groups commented on our rule, as is regular practice. No one raised any concerns with our reading of the law.
Madam Secretary, let me take my time back on that. Whether they commented or not, the law is plain on its face. It doesn't matter what you think or somebody outside of your department thinks. If the law is plain, you don't get to interpret it any other way. And the nonpartisan Congressional Research Service says that you directly contradicted the law in the way you actually carried it out. So are you saying now that because you put it out in comment that you get to interpret it any way you want to, despite the plain wording of the statute?
What I am suggesting is that we believe our reading is accurate. The public had an opportunity to point out if they thought it was inaccurate. That was not done. And we believe that our reading of the law is accurate.
Well, Madam Secretary, let me just say this. The nonpartisan Congressional Research Service directly contradicts you. They say that you read it completely wrong and that you clearly violated the law. Now, there's a lot of concern in America right now about the anger among the electorate. I just came through a primary a few weeks ago. The electorate's angry. They're angry because people of positions of responsibility like you violate the law. You violated the law. The nonpartisan Congressional Research Service has said that you violated the law. And here we are today with some excuse that you put it out for comment. The fact that you put it out for comment does not relieve you of the responsibility to enforce the law as it is plainly written. It is plainly written. There is no wiggle room around this. The fact that you have had 2 weeks to look at this and you can't offer me any legal authority for what you did tells me that you just decided, or your staff decided, we're not going to put the $5 billion in the Treasury as we are required to do by law. And I can tell you, my constituents and the people around the United States of America are sick and tired of that. So if you want to provide to this committee at a later date whatever your legal staff wants to provide as whatever legal basis for their interpretation, that's fine. But telling me that you put it out for notice and comment does not answer the question as to how you get around the clear requirements of this law. And it's not just my interpretation that I'm going on here. I'm going on the interpretation of the nonpartisan Congressional Research Service. I appreciate your telling us what you told us here today, but it is not an answer. And I hope you and your legal staff, after this is over, will put something together and send it back to us. And I yield.